In May 2025, the World Health Organization finalized a pandemic agreement after 3 years of negotiations. While aimed at preventing future health crises, it has sparked debate and suspicion. Key questions arise about its true implications and potential hidden agendas. This presentation will critically analyze these aspects, exploring what mainstream sources aren't addressing. The agreement's goals include enhancing cooperation and equitable access to resources, yet its technical language obscures concerning provisions. Critics argue this complexity hides potential overreach, raising questions about transparency and accountability. The language may mask intentions that could undermine national sovereignty, demanding a closer examination of its true implications. The agreement mandates expanded surveillance systems and global monitoring of potential outbreak sources, with mandatory reporting requirements for nations. These measures raise significant concerns about privacy and data security, questioning the balance between global health safety and individual rights. How will these systems be regulated, and who ensures the protection of sensitive data? The World Health Organization's new authority to declare emergencies and issue binding recommendations raises sovereignty concerns. This shift could override national health policies, transferring power to unelected officials. Critics argue this represents an unprecedented power transfer, questioning the balance between global health governance and national autonomy. The United States' absence from the final negotiations of the World Health Organization pandemic agreement raises significant concerns. Officially, constitutional issues were cited, but intelligence agencies reportedly flagged problematic provisions. This absence suggests potential power grabs, questioning the balance between national sovereignty and global health governance. What implications does this hold for international health policy and national autonomy? The global surveillance network, branded as an early warning system, raises significant privacy concerns. Without meaningful oversight, this infrastructure could easily shift from monitoring pathogens to surveilling individuals. The lack of transparency and accountability in these systems poses a risk to personal freedoms, echoing broader concerns about unchecked power within the agreement. Financial stakeholders, including pharmaceutical companies and digital health platforms, stand to gain from the World Health Organization pandemic agreement. It mandates stockpiling vaccines and treatments from authorized suppliers, yet the selection criteria for these suppliers remain opaque, raising concerns about potential conflicts of interest and transparency in the decision-making process. Article 24's mechanisms to combat health misinformation risk censoring legitimate debate and dissenting expert opinions. The agreement lacks clarity on who defines false information, potentially stifling free speech. This raises critical concerns about the balance between public health and freedom of expression, especially when scientific understanding is constantly evolving. The agreement mandates nations to share biological samples and genetic data with World Health Organization labs, raising concerns about biological sovereignty. Centralized pathogen repositories under international control lack clear research limitations, posing security risks. This framework challenges national autonomy over biological resources, with potential implications for global health governance and security protocols. The agreement's vaccination clauses suggest a framework for universal vaccination mandates. Provisions for health status verification systems could limit freedoms for those refusing medical interventions, impacting travel and domestic activities. This infrastructure raises significant concerns about individual choice and autonomy, as it potentially enforces compliance through restricted access to essential services. The agreement grants World Health Organization officials extraordinary powers during emergencies, with vague criteria for relinquishment, risking permanent emergency governance. History shows temporary powers often become permanent, raising concerns about democratic processes being suspended indefinitely. This shift in global power dynamics demands scrutiny, as it could lead to a continuous state of emergency without clear oversight. The agreement's provisions, drafted before 2020, suggest a long-term strategy. Critics argue crises are used to justify expanded centralized authority, potentially representing a culmination of power consolidation efforts. This raises questions about whether health emergencies are manipulated to advance pre-existing agendas, with implications for global governance and individual sovereignty. China's influence over the World Health Organization raises significant concerns about the organization's independence. The agreement's provisions closely mirror China's domestic health surveillance systems. Notably, key negotiators had ties to Chinese research institutions, raising critical questions about potential conflicts of interest and the impartiality of the drafting process. The pandemic agreement's architects have ties to private interests, raising conflict of interest concerns. Former pharmaceutical executives and tech company representatives were involved in drafting, highlighting a revolving door between industry and regulatory roles. This connection suggests potential bias in the agreement's provisions, benefiting those with vested interests in its implementation. The agreement grants World Health Organization officials and corporate partners broad immunity during emergencies, shielding them from national court challenges. This effectively removes a crucial accountability mechanism for affected individuals, raising significant concerns about unchecked power and lack of recourse for those harmed by emergency measures. Global resistance to the World Health Organization pandemic agreement is mounting, with public protests and parliamentary reviews highlighting concerns over sovereignty and democratic governance. Nations demand transparency and public consultation, questioning the agreement's implications. This resistance underscores the need for a critical examination of the treaty's provisions and their potential impact on national autonomy. The agreement's digital infrastructure could act as a global control system, integrating with digital ID initiatives and financial networks. This raises concerns about a potential social credit system where societal participation hinges on compliance. Such a system could redefine personal freedoms, demanding critical examination of its implications for global governance. The agreement's language redefines terms like pandemic and emergency, expanding their scope beyond common understanding. This enables frequent activation of emergency powers, raising concerns about potential overreach. Such linguistic manipulation demands scrutiny and public awareness to ensure these powers are not misused, impacting global health governance and national sovereignty. The pandemic agreement could redefine global governance. Public scrutiny and democratic pressure are vital to influence its implementation. Awareness and action ensure accountability, safeguarding national sovereignty. This is a call to engage, question, and act to protect our collective future.